Hi everyone, welcome to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. My name is Artem, and here is the news. 984 days less the Russian invasion of Ukraine. President Volodymyr Zelensky informed that Russian forces attacked Ukraine with 900 bombs and 500 Shahed drones over the past week. Russia also launched 30 missiles. Most of these strikes targeted civilian facilities and critical infrastructure. Earlier, the president said that in October, Russia launched more than 2,000 Shahed drones. These drones had more than 170,000 components that should have been blocked from being supplied to Russia. Microchips, microcontrollers, processors, and others were supplied from China, Europe, America. He called for harder control of the export of special components and resources and for prevention of Russia from circumventing the sanctions. South Korean intelligence informed about the possible details of the agreement between North Korea and Russia that allowed Moscow to involve North Korean forces in its war in Ukraine, reports Babel. The agreement includes an annual supply of 600 to 700 tons of rice to North Korea, a salary of $2,000 for North Korean soldiers deployed in Ukraine, space technology, and provision for Russian involvement in potential conflicts on the Korean peninsula. Korean MP V. Sung-lak, former South Korean ambassador to Russia, described North Korea's involvement in the war against Ukraine as not a bad deal at all for the regime. He stated that the financial and food crisis in North Korea are largely being alleviated by Russian compensation for its military support against Ukraine. With around 10,000 North Korean troops expected to be deployed to Ukraine, this could generate over $200 million annually for Pyongyang, V reported. In addition, approximately 4,000 North Korean workers are currently stationed in Russia, earning an average of $800 per month. South Korean intelligence informed that Russia may also be providing North Korea with advanced space technology as Pyongyang seeks to launch another military reconnaissance satellite. However, perhaps the most advantageous part of the deal for North Korea is Russia's potential involvement in combat on the Korean peninsula in the event of unforeseen circumstances. We would really appreciate if you could rate us, ideally with 5 stars, and leave a glowing review in the app where you are listening to this podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and others. This really helps more people to find out about the highlights from Ukraine and truth about Russia's invasion. The Washington Post informs that Russia is quietly rooting for the victory of Donald Trump in the US elections, but his plans to end the war in Ukraine may be unacceptable for the Kremlin, reports Ukrainska Pravda. According to the Washington Post, Russia is pretending to be unconcerned about the US elections while secretly supporting Donald Trump. At the same time, while Trump's worldwide agenda is more in line with the Kremlin's preferences, his plans to end the war in Ukraine may not be acceptable to Russian leader Vladimir Putin. According to claims made by US authorities and data obtained by the Washington Post, the Kremlin and Russian military intelligence have conducted numerous disinformation efforts against Kamala Harris and her running mate Tim Walz, and have also questioned the validity of their elections' results. The publication argues that the Kremlin is attempting to weaken Western support for Ukraine, and Trump's candidature aligns with Moscow's strategy as he has consistently criticized American aid to Ukraine. However, few in Moscow believe that Trump can make a complete turn in relations, especially after how little changed during his first term. Nonetheless, there is a growing hope among the Russian elite that Trump will win, and if he does, that there will be an opportunity to finish the war in Ukraine on Moscow's terms, potentially redrawing the map of global security. CNN also informs that Putin is unlikely to sit at the negotiating table to end the war in Ukraine, regardless of who wins the US election. CNN notes that Ukraine is already wary, and Putin appears willing to endure a huge number of casualties. If a future Trump administration eliminates US funding, Ukraine will be more disadvantaged. Even if US policy continues on its current path, Kyiv's Western partners appear unwilling to offer the resources required to gain big battlefield victories. Thank you for listening to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast. We're a non-commercial initiative of just 2 people, and we need your help to grow. Share information about the podcast, rate us in the app, subscribe to our Patreon. With your support, we are getting better.
We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine.